My name is Aymun Sajid. I'm a Hafiz al-Quran and a university student. I'm an artist and writer, and I'm the author and illustrator of Refusing to Disappear. My father was an engineer, an IT engineer, and he was the best father anyone could have. I was very close to him. On 14th of March 2016, two black cabin cars, double cabin cars, came into our street. It was around 6 p.m. Kids were playing outside, and they broke into our home, some of them wearing black uniforms with "No Fear" written across the back, and some of them in plain clothes. And I remember seeing them, men with guns, searching through our shelves and our toys even. And I remember when the doors slammed and they were gone, I heard my mom asking our helper, where is our father? And I remember repeating to myself over and over again, please don't say it, please don't say it. And he said, they took him. And that day I lost not only my father, but I lost my childhood and my future and my dreams as well. So the day right after my father's disappearance, my mother and grandfather went to register the FIR at the local police station, and they were turned down. So eventually we visited Defense of Human Rights office, where they advised us to take up the case in both the Commission of Inquiry of Enforced Disappearances and the Islamabad High Court. So the habeas corpus petition was filed at the High Court, and the hearing started. I was still a young kid at that time, and I essentially grew up in the halls of the High Court, attending these hearings. And with every hearing, we were given a new hope and a fresh expectation for something to happen, and every time those hopes were dashed to the ground. So 2 years and 40 plus hearings later, eventually a verdict was reached, and it was a landmark judgment that declared my father's abduction to be that of enforced disappearance, and declared the state responsible. It also imposed fines on those, some higher ups in positions of authority, in order to compensate the families of the victims from the date of the disappearance to the future date of recovery. It also, of course, ordered that my father be released immediately. However, it's been 7 years since my father was first disappeared. There has been no implementation of the verdict, and as soon as it came, in fact, appeals were filed against it. And the hearings for those appeals still continue. And the most recent thing that has been going on is that we are given a date for a hearing with around 4 months gap, and then at the last moment, like a day or two before, they cancel the hearing. So we are left with this fading hope of any justice to be served. As a child, I loved writing and drawing, and my father was my biggest supporter. He would always compliment any of my scribbles or silly attempts at writing stories. And I also loved writing diaries and recording diaries. My father would especially bring home stacks of diaries for us to keep. And when he was taken, I was essentially left to my own devices, and all I had was being able to write and draw my feelings out. So when our lives essentially ground to a halt because of this incident, and my mother was occupied with keeping up with all the responsibilities my father left behind, I started keeping a journal of sorts in which I could feel like I was communicating with my father in some way, in which I felt like I was able to put down some of the burden that I was now carrying. Eventually, there was a UK-based writing competition which Naima B. Roberts was judging. She is a famous British author. And at first, I was about to submit a fictional story for it. But she encouraged us, the judge encouraged us to write about something that was close to our heart, or basically write our own story. So I ended up submitting this journal in that competition. So she really spoke highly of it and encouraged me to publish it. Eventually, Aisha at Defense of Human Rights, she heard about this journal as well, and I shared it with her. And she took it upon herself, along with Mrs. Janjua and everyone else at Defense of Human Rights, to get it published. Eventually, there was a co-campaign with Amnesty International and DHR, and a campaign was launched alongside the book. And on 28th of May, 2022, we officially launched it. And I had also eventually written, alongside writing the entries, I had added illustrations with this book. The launch was attended by journalists, activists, and lawyers who were related in this issue of human rights and working with the families of the forcibly disappeared. In this struggle, I have learned that it is hard to dream of justice anymore, because the system and the processes are so broken or so rusty that it's hard to dream about anything really. But if I don't really dream of anything. It's literally the bare minimum that I can expect, or the bare minimum justice that one can hope for. And that is, first of all, these enforced disappearances need to stop, because they're still going on. And as we speak, even someone could be forcibly abducted from their home. Secondly, all those disappeared need to be produced, even if it's their dead bodies, their families need to be given closure. If someone is guilty of something, he needs to be tried in a legal way. And if someone is innocent, they need to be freed. And thirdly, although there's no compensation for the horror that a victim's family is put through, or that a victim is put through, there needs to be some sort of compensation, some sort of acknowledgement of this crime. So a financial compensation towards the families and towards the victims is literally a very basic, really bare minimum protocol that we can expect. And lastly, and this might be the dream, to be honest, is that those responsible need to be held accountable. Someone somewhere needs to fix responsibility for this heinous crime that has been going on for so long and too long. In a struggle like this, whenever we reach a milestone or we reach a high point, it's hard to feel proud or to celebrate, because I'm always faced with the fact that my father is not there and that he is not celebrating with me. So there's always something missing. And perhaps if there could have been a proudest moment, it would have been when I published the book, when we managed to launch a campaign and raise awareness around this issue through this book. But even as I was standing on that day signing copies for people I admired, for Mrs. Janjua, for human rights activists, for lawyers, even then I knew that what had led to this was such a huge calamity and such a huge loss in my life, that even that moment of what others would have considered a proud moment, it was hollow and empty for me. And even when I was receiving messages of congratulations, and congratulations, you published a book, congratulations, it's a successful launch, I was kind of laughing at myself that, what are you congratulating me for? How can I feel happy about this? So that's the reality, and I am glad that I was able to contribute in some small way. I hope that it positively affects this struggle for justice, but it would be hard to say that I am proud of it.